Welcome everybody. I'm Carolyn Jacobs with GBH Education, and this is an educator peer exchange. I'm with the Education Department at GBH, and GBH is Boston's PBS station and the producer of many of the iconic programs that you see on other stations across the country. Masterpiece, Nova, American Experience, American Experience, Nova, Masterpiece, and a lot of children's programs all originate in Boston. So GBH is one of the sponsors this evening, as well as PBS LearningMedia. PBS LearningMedia is a free website for K-12 educators offering actually thousands of digital resources across the curriculum for pre-K to 12. And I'm going to come back on at the end and show you some resources that are very specific and relevant for VOTech educators. But if you have not already, we encourage you to explore pbslearningmedia.org. Again, it is free.
Carolyn, are you sharing your screen right now?
Yes, you don't see it?
It just says Carolyn Jacobs has started screen sharing, but it doesn't show anything.
Okay, then I will stop share and try again.
If you want, you can email the slides to me, and maybe it'll work on my end, and I'll just press next for each one.
Well, that is really bizarre. I'm gonna try. You didn't see any slides?
No.
All right, let's try this. Do you see the slides now?
I do.
All right, well, we don't want to miss these gorgeous slides we already saw and we missed here. So anyway, GBH, PBS LearningMedia, that's where the website looks. All right, so I'm going to introduce Kevin Farr, who is the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Association for Vocational Administrators, and Mava is really behind this webinar and one of our sponsors, and we've really enjoyed working with them. Mava and Kevin Farr, say hello, please.
Hi, everybody, and I want to thank Carolyn Jacobs, PBS Learning, and GBH for the collaboration that is taking place between the vocational technical community in the Commonwealth and her organization. This is a great platform for us to get our message out throughout the country, throughout the region, and to reach as many folks as we can. As Mava seeks to support our educators, our administrators, and ultimately the people that we're really here for, our students. So with that being said, we've got great presenters tonight. I look forward to them. They're all personal friends of mine that are outstanding career educators. Carolyn, all yours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And we do see you on camera, Kevin, so things have changed. My Zoom has woken up. All right, so our agenda tonight, we have two wonderful presentations with 4 presenters, and they are going to be talking about these very innovative projects, how they got started, what the results are, and what their plans are, some of the challenges and successes that they had with them. We are using, obviously, Zoom webinar as our platform. We are recording. And so only the presenters have the mic and the camera. All of the attendees, we invite you to talk with one another and the presenters through chat. You can also use the Q&A. Matul from the GBH Education is in the background looking at the chat. And I think it'd be really good if you not only react to what you see, but if you also share ideas that you have from your own schools of innovative programs. Feel free to post little descriptions about them or links to them so we really can have an exchange of ideas. Little noise there. All right, so our presenters, Russ Mangson is the first. He is has been a VOTEC educator since '88. He retired recently as the Director of Technical Programs at Assabet Valley Regional Technical High School in Marlborough, Mass. He is currently working as a curriculum specialist, collaborating with the Massachusetts Association of VOC Administrators, working on the revisions of the VOTEC education frameworks. And he is joined by Billy, who is off camera. Billy Italiano is the lead teacher from Assabet Valley's House Carpentry program, and he will be joining Russ for the presentation. Bill was the driving force that initiated the Tiny House project while doing community service work with students from Assabet in Down East Maine. Then we have the team of Kevin and Aaron. Kevin is the superintendent, he is the executive director of Madison Park Technical Vocational High School. Sometimes I say VOTEC and sometimes I take Vocational High School in Roxbury, Massachusetts. Kevin is a native of Paterson, New Jersey, worked in urban education for 33 years. He was a teacher and administrator for 22 years in Springfield, Mass. Coached basketball for 20 years and was inducted into the Western New England College Hall of Fame. And he is joined by Aaron Polanski. Aaron is the superintendent of Old Colony Regional in Marlborough, Mass. Aaron is an author, educator, graduated from the Eisenberg School of Management at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. And he was also the director of Massachusetts USA Wrestling. So we have two athletes here for 10 years. Aaron's latest book, Beyond Us, A True Story with Implications for All of Us, was released in 2019. And we are thrilled to have you all with us tonight. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Russ and Billy. And I will be advancing the slides. And if I don't, if it's not obvious when I should do that, Billy and Russ, you'll just prompt me to do that.
We will. Thank you. I'm Russ Magson. As Carolyn mentioned, recently retired as Director of Tech Programs at Assabet Valley. And as Carolyn mentioned also, this project really came about by the ambition and focus of Bill, who's with me this evening, Bill Italiano, who's a lead teacher in the carpentry program at Assabet Valley. His vision for students goes way back to the first conversation we had about doing something similar to this is when Katrina hit down in New Orleans. He talked about building houses for individuals down there that had become homeless due to that. Transportation to New Orleans would have been extremely challenging from Massachusetts, but he never lost his passion for doing something similar. And that's how this project came about, through the collaboration of Assabet Valley and community service that we did at the Maine Seacoast Mission that began back in 2013, and Bill was part of that. So I'm going to let Bill talk about a little bit how this came about.
Well, we have a program at Assabet where we take students and do community service work. And it started out local. We found this place up in Maine and started going up there. We go up April vacations. The students give up their April vacation, and we go up there and do community service work with the Seacoast Mission. And we were working on someone's trailer home that was in really sad shape. And jokingly, I said to Scott, who runs the housing program there, and I said, we ought to just build this guy a new house in our shop and ship it up here. And he said, you could do that? And I told him I'd love to do that. And that's kind of how it started.
Can we jump to the next slide?
So I found a book, and we, on what they called not tiny houses, but anyhow, it was compact houses. And this was a sketch we drew up from one of the ones we found in there. And that's kind of where it started from. And we discussed it with the other trades in the school, you know, plumbing and electrical wiring especially, and they were they were really thrilled to have some project like this for our students to do. You know, we could come out and come on a real on a real project, not a mock-up. Go ahead, do that.
So what Bill's focus really was when he talked to me about this is the off-campus projects that the school does. The grades 11 and 12 utilize the skills that they acquire in grades 9 and 10, and they go to off-campus projects where they do community service, work for municipalities, for nonprofits, and in some cases build homes for individuals that are economically disadvantaged, utilizing the skills that acquired in plumbing, electrical, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration. And carpentry is always the anchor of those programs. And carpentry typically are the ones that start with that. Bill was looking at a way to prepare his students to go off campus and thought that building a house at the school was better than having kids utilize the equipment and not go to the high level of construction standard that goes along with home construction. And that's where this tiny house came about. Better prepare kids for co-op, off-campus projects, and also for going into the world of work. We can move forward. So what we needed to do is fund the project. When we started talking about it, it's like, okay, we can do this. How are we going to get it in the shop? What are we going to start with? And how are we going to move forward with that? And what we took a look at was what Maine Seacoast Mission was already doing, Down East Community Partners. They're nonprofits that support individuals that are economically disadvantaged in northern Maine, down East Maine. And they were already partnered with CF Adams Trust. And the CF Adams Trust provided supports for these individuals that needed home repairs. They also do things that help support individuals that food services as well. They do a multitude of services for individuals that are economically disadvantaged. B. Adams, who is the individual at the CF Adams Trust, she is the chairperson of the board, I guess would be the proper title. She loved the idea of doing this and said, let's go forward with this. And the funding was secured. She indicated that they would fund the project, and that's where we began to move forward. As we move forward, we had to establish the relationships that we had. That's the logistics behind it. And we had to make sure that the Assabet administrative team, the school committee, were on board and understood what we were going to do and understood that it was going to be able to be done with minimal impact on the district financially. And that's what we had secured through the folks at CF Adams Trust. The other piece that we were able to do is establish what the connections were with the folks up in Maine. And Down East Community Partners, in collaboration with Maine Seacoast Mission, did the pieces on site in Millbridge, Maine, where the house was located to make sure that the site was properly prepared and that the foundation was in, the well was done, the septic was dug, all of the things that were necessary. So they worked the logistics on their end up in Maine while we were handling the construction down here at Assabet. We can move forward.
So they had an advocate that they worked with on other projects, or not really. She would donate her time, but just kind of like the rest of us did. But she always wanted to do something on the architectural end. She's an architect, and this came about. So she
Excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt. Billy, we're really having trouble hearing you.
Okay, let me try to lean in here closer. How's that? Any better?
That's much better, thank you.
So Cherie was an individual. She was also involved in helping them with projects, but not really on the architectural end, even though she was an architect. So she donated her services to, got together with the homeowner and drew up a set of plans that we could all work with. And drew up a really nice little house. And even though it's called a tiny house, it's not really tiny. It was 14 feet by 40 feet. So, you know, a tiny house to me is like something on wheels. This was much more than that.
This is truly a tiny home.
Yeah, it's more of a compact house than a tiny house.
So with the plans that Jerry initially drew, there were some pieces that we wanted to make sure that the clarity for the other technical programs, and that being the electrical and plumbing, because the plans we had were the structural plans that were drawn out. So Bill, in collaboration with the teachers and students in the drafting and engineering design program, put in the detail that was necessary for the rough plumbing, rough electrical, the layout that was necessary. And the pieces that went along with that were building to code in Massachusetts. So all of those pieces came together. Things that we did as we were moving forward, we were having a lot of discussions, and the project became a little bit bigger than we originally anticipated. We had talked about doing, I think, 12 by 30. Bill and I go back and forth about what that original number was that he had presented to me, and we found a space that we could construct it inside our carpentry shop. But the biggest piece that I was concerned with the size of this, and it goes to the pieces that Bill spoke to me about, it goes to getting it over the road. Do you want to talk about the necessities of that, Bill?
So there's restrictions when you're bringing down the road. There's width restrictions, weight restrictions, a lot of restrictions, which you all overcome, but it just costs money for transportation and permits. So we wanted to keep it within, without having to go down that road, if you will. So we contacted the rigger and found out the height of his trailer and subtracted that from our, what our max height could be without getting, excessive permits, and the width and whatnot. So we kept the house within those dimensions.
So as we moved the project forward and we were getting close to actually starting construction, the anxiety I continued to have was, how are we going to get this thing through the door when we're done? And Bill had talked with the riggers, and even though I completely trust him, his skills are outstanding as a carpenter, many years experience before he became a teacher. He knew exactly what he was doing, and it's like, Bill, just have the rigger come in and have him talk to me. And the gentleman came in and he looked at it with total confidence, and he said, a half an inch is all I need to get this thing out the door. And I was fascinated by that concept, that a half an inch was all that was necessary for him to get out the door. He's an expert in his field. I had to believe it. And at that point, it was ready to move forward. So we can jump ahead with the slide. That original drawing that you saw, this is the more detailed drawing that Jerry Sperling provided. And if you look real closely, you can see some squiggly lines in there. And those are the electrical components that our drafting and engineering design students did in collaboration with their teachers, is they added detail that was necessary to make sure the lighting was in the correct places, smoke detectors and things such as that, which weren't really concerns in Maine, because code is not as strict in Maine as what it is in Massachusetts. We can move forward. So the project began on May 19th of 2019. That's when the first delivery came in. We can move forward. So the programs that were involved in the project, most importantly, and never could have got this done without our house carpentry program. The electrical wiring and plumbing were absolutely essential to move the project forward. Drafting and engineering design with the support that they had. And when I speak of the programs, I'm speaking most specifically of the teachers working with the students to get this job done. We had our heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and refrigeration folks involved as well. And we needed to make sure that they were supporting the program, to make sure that even though we knew it was energy efficient, we wanted to make sure that it had the proper ventilation that went along with this tight home that we were constructing. Our biotechnology program supported in a very special way, and we'll speak to that a little bit further. And one of the things that was very important for us is to make sure that we documented the project. And the documentation was done through our design and visual communications department. And I speak of ours, even though I'm retired from Assabet, I still feel very comfortable in saying that Bill's still there, but it's still a piece of me, as it is, and it always will be. We can move forward. So some of the things that we had to make sure that happened while we were doing all the things we were at Assabet is being attentive to what was happening up in Maine. If we get the house completed before the foundation or septic was completed, the well, those were all concerns that we had. As the project moved forward, weather conditions became a concern because it was going through the fall of 2019 that the work was happening at Assabet. But it was a question of whether we were going to be able to complete it before the snow began to fly. And some of the pieces that went with that were just some changes in schedule. Our anticipated start time on the project ideally would have been in January when the grade 9 students were initially assigned in the program as permanent placement after exploratory cycles. But we began when the funding came in, and that was in May. So some of the things that we had hoped to do and timing that we had planned for the project kind of shifted from that point. So they had to take into the weather considerations and capping the foundation. Bill got the opportunity to teach his kids a little bit more about what's necessary to protect the foundation from the elements. You think the concrete's going to be fine, but they had to be certain that there was nothing that was going to cause that foundation's integrity to deteriorate through the winter months up in Maine before we were able to build the house. The preparation for delivery and the transportation of the project and the utilities were also. I'm going to let Bill talk a little bit about some of the other things that go along with collaboration and integration. If you would, Bill.
Well, once we had designed, you know, we had to modify a few things.
Excuse me, I have to interrupt again. I'm sorry. Russ, when you turn your head away, we lose your voice from the mic. And Billy, yeah, just come as close as you can.
Okay. So, you know, basically once we had the design done, and keep in mind, we built this with, my freshman students and my sophomore students built this house. Once they, which was quite an achievement, I think, and I'm pretty proud of them. And because it was being transported, we really overbuilt it. Everything got glued. We put double the amount of nailing needed to be that was required in normal construction. And they were all understood why it needed to be that way, just because of the, you know, the transportation aspect of it. And they did a really wonderful job. When they set it on the foundation up in Maine, and the companies that loaded us down here, the Astro crane that loaded it down here, when they picked it up, it didn't budge. And when they took it off and set it on the foundation and went inside, and there was not one crack in any of the joint compound that was on there. And they said that company up there said it was the first house that they'd seen that it had no cracks in any of the drywall. So I was pretty proud of my students for that.
And that goes to the overbuild piece that Bill speaks of. When we began the project, that was the intent. And Bill has done many projects for us. And talked to me about how if you give me a solid foundation, I can build up from there. And that's what he started with. He didn't have a foundation to begin with at Assabet because we were building on a shop floor and we had to keep it elevated. So the integrity that he built into the floor, and I'll let you talk about the construction technique he used just for the floor to make sure that it was as solid as it can be.
And basically the band joists, which is the perimeter joists, we use double LVLs on those, which is laminated veneer lumber. And it's just a lot, it's a manufactured product. It's not a natural product. So it's got a lot more strength to it. So we framed the band joists out of those, and otherwise it was conventionally framed.
So, yep, we're ready to move forward. So the house was as rigid as it was. Bill spoke about the crane company that came in, Astro Crane, to load it onto the truck. This is it being loaded for transportation at Assabet. And the nice thing about this is when we were ready to move it, we talked to Massachusetts State Police, New Hampshire State Police, and Maine State Police. And this thing got an escort from Assabet Valley to Millbridge, Maine. We can move forward. This is the house in Millbridge being hoisted by another crane company up there that also volunteered their services to do so. And in the lower left corner of this picture is Jerry Sperling, the architect that came up with the design for the house. We can move forward. Had to get a shot of Billy on site. There was just no way we couldn't include him. This is Bill taking a look up as the crane company and the individuals that helped with setting on the foundation were putting the overhangs in place, and the overhangs had to be designed specifically to accommodate the width for transportation. They had to be installed on site. So that was another learning technique Bill was able to utilize for his kids. But like an expectant parent, there's Bill making sure that everything is delivered as it's supposed to be. And he definitely, this was his pride and joy, as it should be. And it was impressive to see, and it was a joy for me to watch this come to the end. With that, there is a link in here. I don't know whether you can access that, Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Let's see what happens. Can you see that?
It didn't go to the link, no. I think you had to switch screens.
Okay, I can
The
see
link
it.
is Downey's main tiny house project.
I'll put the link in the chat if anybody's interested in
good
taking a
idea.
look at
Thank
the
you.
link. Yeah. So with that, what there is there's a website that has been maintained by Maine Seacoast Mission and Downey's community partners for this project. It's been in collaboration with the students at Assabet Valley through the Design and Visual Communications program. And it's been updated quite frequently from the first load of lumber that came into Assabet to the point where we moved forward. We took some video on site that hasn't been loaded yet, but they were at Assabet filming when they loaded it onto the trailer to move it out. So it's pretty impressive that Design and Visual Communications did what they did and the support that they provided as well. And that covers our slides that we have, but there's a couple of things that Bill and I wanted to mention as well. Some of the challenges that were associated with the project. If you want to, Bill.
Obviously, the biggest one was COVID. School.
Closer to the mic, please.
I'm sorry. Obviously, the biggest one was COVID. You know, the school closed on March 17th, I believe. So the students didn't get to get it as far. We didn't get it as far along as we had hoped inside the school. So it was meant to go up completely sided, and you saw it wasn't sided, so we had to side it up there. We also were going to put the students up to Maine to complete the house, to set it on the foundation, to tie in the roof, and to do all those last bit of details, which they didn't end up having the opportunity to do. We had to find some people up there. I went up and helped, and we found other people up there that came out and helped us also.
One of the challenges that we had with the project, and it was actually a learning benefit that went along with it, is when this was originally planned, the thought was to build a home for an individual that was economically disadvantaged. When the individual who received the house was selected through Downey's Community Partners and Maine Seacoast Mission, the selection became an individual that was not only economically disadvantaged, but he was a disabled veteran. And his disability tied into an allergy associated with something that he was exposed to in the military service that was so severe to corn, which is in just about every construction product that there is, that he actually can't even go grocery shopping in a grocery store because just the dust associated with corn in a grocery store could cause a severe allergic reaction that could be life-threatening for him. So that's where our biotechnology students supported the carpentry program. And what they did was they did the research that was necessary for all the products that we had. Bill started to do it with his students, checking MSDS sheets, but we wanted to be absolutely certain because this allergy was so severe. We're better to go than the experts in biotechnology. They contacted companies, they talked to scientists, and in one case, the company that they spoke to actually allowed them the opportunity to speak to the individual who invented the product that they were questioning whether it had any concerns with it. That individual was able to speak to them directly. It was an extremely exciting moment for teachers And you can imagine how exciting it was for those students who actually had that opportunity, and it made it much more enthusiastic for them as they prepare for the world of work in the biotech field. With that, some of the things that are included in the website is the number of donations that were given. We spoke of the CF Adams Trust that supported this project initially by identifying the funding. Is Bill made phone calls, and I do have to say Bill made the phone calls to get the items that were necessary for it. And when he spoke of what he was doing, people just kept saying, "I'll donate that. I'll donate that." And that started with the flooring. I'll donate the floor. I'll donate the wall. I'll donate the roof. I'll donate the sheetrock. All of those things were amazing. So just a wonderful project and outstanding learning for students at Assabet Valley, and community service as well, which is just a bonus. Do you have anything else, Bill?
Well, congratulations, one and all. Thank you very much. You can see accolades in the chat box. Feel free to post any questions that you have for Russ and Billy about how they did this, how they managed it. Russ, also, if you would be willing to post any contact information for you in the chat, if people want to follow up with you, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to Kevin and Aaron, if you want to come on camera. And Russ, if you would turn off your camera, please. And great. Okay, so Kevin and Aaron are going to talk about a very different kind of innovative project. And we're not using slides. We're just using the beautiful faces of Kevin and Aaron. Go for it, guys.
Thank you, Carolyn. I tell you, me and Aaron wanted to look alike like we normally do. I think we're wearing the same suits the same day that we did the exchange. But this was just a conversation of two friends, real close friends, who wanted to get their communities together. And Aaron, how did we start this?
Well, I think to echo Kevin's sentiments, sometimes you meet people and you just feel a warmth, or you know something is just right. And we've been lucky enough to have a friendship that has resulted in some incredible memories, laughs, innovative thoughts, brainstorming. And we were sitting with members of our team, I believe, at the MAVA summer retreat. We turned to each other and we said, you know, we should get our students together and find a way for them to meet one another. Let's put our heads together and see what we can do. And Old Colony in Rochester, Massachusetts is a very, I know it said suburban, I dare to say almost rural area, surrounded by some beautiful cranberry bogs when I'm on my way into work in the morning. And we have a population that is over 90% white. We have about 25% special education population, and very few students of color. And we thought that it would be a wonderful opportunity to get together. Kevin, tell us a little bit about your school.
And Madison Park is just the polar opposite. 97% of our students are of color. 92% are deemed by DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, as being high needs. We have roughly 34% of our students in special education, 39% are English learners, as well as 74% of our student body receives free and reduced lunch. So you're talking about two polar opposites really coming together. And it was just such a unique opportunity, and something that we just had to do.
So we brainstormed around how we wanted to do it. And what we really wanted to do was just rent a big place and get everybody together and obviously involve 100% of our population. But that was not a reality in the pilot level of the program. So what we did was we chose 6 vocational areas, and we had basically 6 vocational areas meet where half of the population would stay home as host and the other half would travel on the same day. which resulted in full participation for the 6 vocational areas in both schools.
That's right.
Somewhere to the tune of about 80 students total. Is that accurate, Kevin?
Yeah,
Somewhere
between
around there?
30 and 40 from each school, including the instructors. One instructor from each department made the exchange as well.
So, you know, that was a great opportunity for us to basically both schools to hop on a bus. The first date we had picked got snowed out, so we had to reschedule, and we hopped on a bus, and I can tell you from my perspective, when we pulled up to Madison Park, I called Kevin. I said, "What door should we come in?" We parked in a space where I typically park when I'm going to the Reggie Lewis Center to take my daughters to cheerleading competitions. And Kevin said, no, you know, we'll come get you. And I remember coming in the door and seeing Kevin. We gave each other a hug, and you could see all of the kids with huge smiles on, and the people who were with us with huge smiles on their face. And I think it set a beautiful tone. Kevin, jump in.
I mean, it was truly an event, and it was something where you know that each group had these perceptions, and it's great. It's a great title that you have, Carolyn, for this panel, breaking down barriers and building bridges. And that was the whole purpose, where we were going to dispel all the stereotypes, dismiss all the ill perceptions that both parties would have. And the moment that, you know, one, seeing me and Aaron hugging, first of all, it looks like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins, first and foremost. But seeing that, it just loosened up the crowd. And just to see the interactions in the programs, and the programs were our auto technology program, cosmetology, culinary arts, electrical, health assisting, and marketing. And that set the tone for just some outstanding work.
Business market, yeah.
You just saw collaboration, and the Old Colony kids didn't miss a beat. I mean, it was as if they were Madison Park students. All we had to do was change their IDs, and they would have been Madison Park students. And it was just a magical day where we were breaking down barriers. We're coming 55 some odd miles south of here. You can imagine what they're saying. We're going into Roxbury, Massachusetts, of the stories that they were told. And it wasn't like that. And even for our students who went down to Old Colony, I mean, God forbid what they were thinking, because a lot of our students are so provincial where it's all about just their neighborhood, just about Dorchester or Mattapan or Roxbury. And for them to go 55 miles and see something completely different, it was a catharsis. Because one of the things I called Aaron immediately after our kids came back, I says, Aaron, I couldn't get them to shut up about this trip. They just went on about the excitement and how they felt, how they were treated. And it was just one of those things where we hear about all the social ills that we've been going through for the past few years. This was our time to start breaking that cycle. And it was something that Aaron and I were very proud of. And we knew that this was going to happen. And I mean, we didn't have any doubt in our minds that this wouldn't be successful. Just for the simple fact of the will of, you know, just the will of ours, just to make sure that our communities connected. So we wouldn't have all this negative discourse going back and forth. Because who knows? They might be working hand in hand in a particular industry down the road.
So true. And I think, you know, when Kevin, before this happened, Kevin said, you know, we're going to debrief with our students. We're going to give them kind of an overview of what they'll be coming into and give them some expectations. And I said, you know what? That's a great idea. We're going to do the same thing. And our assistant principal, Gary Linehan, met with the students. He had real conversations, real dialogue. So what do you guys expect when you go into Boston? What do you think you're going to see? What do you think it's going to be like? What's going through your mind? Let's talk. Let's have some real conversations. And Gary did a really wonderful job really just having real conversations with the students before we took off and made our way to Madison Park. And I can remember specifically when we were eating lunch together, and one of our students who is so endearing, who everybody loves, he's like a little brother to everybody at school. And he had this great conversation where he was going back and forth with one of the Madison Park instructors about the Patriots. And they said they wanted to keep him. And there was that warmth. And, you know, I'm in a course right now where they're talking about social critical consciousness, and psychologist Erik Erikson characterized the central task. I'm reading this. This is a script I'm reading because it really resonated with me. I sent it to Kevin yesterday. But Erik Erikson has characterized the central task of adolescence as moving beyond a strict adherence to the worldviews of one's family members and home community, and seeking out new and different ways of understanding the world. These new understandings can come from peers, popular culture, adult mentors, and so on. And what we did is we gave our students, both groups who probably don't get the opportunity to leave their respective areas all that frequently, and see people who look differently than they do and come from a different place than they do. We gave them a chance to see the world through a new set of eyes, and it was beautiful. And to have people rejoice in that beauty when we were done was really a pivotal moment, so much so that we've said to each other, we're going to be doing this on a routine basis. It is written into our district improvement plan at Old Colony. It's in writing. And we feel great about that.
It is confirmed. But Aaron, one of the things that came, remember Aaron, one of the things that came out of this was we were talking, you know, through our MAVA fraternity, and well, how much did that cost? The price of a bus.
Right.
The price of a bus.
And what the crazy part is, when we were through, the feedback we received all the way from the Department of Ed to private industry was unbelievable. The UMass University system reached out to us and actually wanted to pay for our students to come to the UMass campus over the summer for a collaborative group-based project where they would do work on the campus. And unfortunately, COVID struck, but as early as today, Kevin and I were on the phone with Pegasus Spring Education Collective about getting our students involved in a year-long equity institute that they will participate in once a month, collaboratively. Right. So there's some really beautiful, love is contagious. Warmth and beauty are contagious. And I think that we have this obligation to model that. And then for that to spread, because people want that in their lives. And so, you know, every time we have the opportunity to talk about this, I get enthused. I called Kevin today and I said, do you want to go blue shirt, blue jacket, red tie? And he's like, well, my blue shirt is at the cleaners. Can we go white shirt?
But this guy calls every week, trust me. But, you know, Aaron touched upon something, because we hear so many negative things about our society. And he hit it right on it. It is about love. It's about benevolence. It's about altruism. It's about empathy. It's about all those things. And how can we model that behavior, especially being in a vocational school? And when I go from a Madison Park perspective, in a lot of the fields that we represent, there is little representation of students of color or employees of color. And our students have to learn about that. And so folks like Aaron are an asset for us. They are value add for us. And as we both has indicated to each other and the world, whoever may listen, this is just the beginning. I mean, this is not something that's a one-off. And that was one of the things, the imperatives that we indicated to each other. We don't do one-offs. This is something that's going to keep growing and evolving as we go on.
And I think really, to Kevin's point, there's a reciprocity. The benefit is like looking in the mirror, right? We're looking at the mirror, and we're really able to reflect and say, what you're doing for me, I'm doing for you. And it's such a beautiful exchange. We can talk to our kids about theory, but theory doesn't solve issues. Theory is only a thought. Action and collaboration and warmth and empathy and the ability to walk in one another's shoes allows us to speak a language that brings us to common ground, to beautiful places where our students can then pass that on to their families. And the changes that they will make will be different than the changes that we make. And that's what growth is all about. You know, I think about Russ and Billy who were speaking before us, and they talked about how vocational education served this beautiful purpose through action. And tomorrow is Veterans Day. how appropriate that they were building a house for a disabled veteran. I want to take a moment and recognize that through vocational education, we help people.
That's right.
We help humanity, we help students, and we do things for people that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And we put action where sometimes words would only have existed had it not been for vocational education. So to all of our veterans, thank you for your service. And to vocational education, thank you for your action.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So I know that I've seen some of the great things that we've been saying, and I see some in the chat. One of our chefs who was involved in the project, Chef Chris DeRocher from Culinary, fantastic chef, let me tell you. Man, if I had enough money, I'd hire him as my personal chef. But I mean, we had plans of this going forward for a second, and it probably would have been a third and a fourth trip as well. And COVID, and then once COVID hit, it kind of slowed it. It slowed that process down, but it did not stop the movement, and it could not stop the movement. So we're in the planning phases of just something even bigger and better as we go forward.
Kevin and Aaron, I'm curious, aside from all of the positive feedback you got and what you saw happen with dynamics and awareness and student just building empathy, etc. Did you hear anything, any comments about the differences in the programs that kids saw? Or did they feel like when they went to the culinary program at Old Colony, they were in a similar setting that they felt comfortable with? Talk a little bit about the similarity of the programs or not.
The kids felt comfortable because, again, we're learning pretty much the same curriculum. It's through the state as well as some supplements. But from the vantage point for the students coming back who visited Old Colony, they indicated they didn't miss a beat. It was as if they belonged there. And again, the only thing that was different, maybe the color of their skin, but the content of everybody's character and all the work that they were doing fit right in. And Aaron, how did you kids feel when they were here?
I think it was really similar. I think one of the funny stories that was told when I came back was during lunch, the bell rang, and one of your administrators said to Mr. Parker, all the kids just stood up, like they were just programmed to just stand up. What was that all about? And they were laughing together about that, which was pretty interesting. And our building is tiny. So when you walk into Old Colony, you could probably walk around Old Colony if you were walking really fast in less than 3 minutes. When we walked into Madison Park, I was like, wow, this place is huge. And Kevin took us on this tour, and thank goodness we had Kevin with us, because I wouldn't have known. It was just such a huge building, and to see all of that space was mind-boggling. So that's a difference that did exist, is Madison Park has a very big facility, and Old Colony has a very tiny one-floor building that doesn't compare when it comes to space.
Great. All right, thank you very, very much. You can look in the chat for all the great comments. Feel free to share your ideas in the chat of other programs that you've done or ask questions of the participants. We're going to wind down. I'm going to share my screen again. And we're going to go to the final slides right here. So this is just a reminder about PBS LearningMedia. This is the website. It is free. It is a co-production of GBH and PBS. It is a resource for teachers with thousands of digital resources for K-12 across the curriculum and lots for VOTech. So we have many collections, what we call collections on the site, which are curated groups of resources that you can find under one banner. And so I just have some screenshots from a few examples of collections that I thought would be of particular interest to this group, VOTech educators. And at the end of this, I'm just going to flip through a few. You're going to see a link for a folder. So I've created a folder of resources on PBS LearningMedia with all of these resources that I have and links that I have. So adaptive technologies is one that I'm highlighting here, and that is a collection of videos. By the way, all the videos are very short, 3 to 5 minutes. And the adaptive technologies help students explore how science, technology, engineering, and math support athletes with physical disabilities. Science, the science of food has some great, interesting clips. The science of taste, the science of chocolate, the science of cheese. This is an example of something that is from Frontline, one of the programs that GBH produces. Lots of things related to food and food safety. This is just giving a nod to the construction curriculum, again from Nova. The design process, there are lots of materials on the site explaining and walking students through the many stages of the design process. I thought the math of energy was an interesting one also. Flip side of science, Our Hungry Planet. This is a great video about vertical farming, but there are many in each of the collections, each of these banners that you see. And we have lots of resources and short videos about different careers, and their range of careers, they don't all require a 4-year degree. Some of them are certificate programs. Some of them, of course, go up to higher education. But it gives students a chance to see and hear from a young person who has a different kind of career, a name which they might never have heard of before. And these are very, very popular, and you can find lots of those career videos on the site. EcoSense for Living was another collection that I just recently discovered. And I thought this was a cool thing, sustainable fashion. You can see one of the resources from the collection right here. All right, so this is the folder of the resources. This will lead you to a folder on PBS LearningMedia where you can access each of the individual ones. Matul is putting that folder link in the chat also. And then we have a survey. So our research department puts together a brief survey, and we ask that you please take it. It's just a few minutes. We really do listen to what you say and try and do better. And at the end of the survey, you can download a certificate of participation if you would like to. We have many, many webinars that we host for educators on a variety of topics, and we publish everything. We record everything, and we publish them on our YouTube page. So GBH Education YouTube page is where you find all of the recordings. Tomorrow we will send out an email to everyone who registered. We'll have the recording link to this session along with the survey link and the link to the folder of the resources, and you're welcome to share that through your network of colleagues. We're very active in social media, so please feel free to follow us. And I want to give a tremendous thank you to our 4 presenters, Russ and Billy and Aaron and Kevin. Thank you for hanging in there. I apologize again for the little technical difficulties we had at the beginning, but I think once we got rolling, everything worked. I'm Carolyn Jacobs. This is my email here. You are welcome to email me with any questions related to PBS LearningMedia, public media, GBH, or if you want to get in touch with one of the presenters and you don't have their contact information, please feel free to get in touch with me. All right, we're going to keep the chat box open for another couple of minutes in case we haven't addressed everybody's questions or comments, give you another chance, and then we're going to close things out. And wish you a very lovely rest of the evening and good health. Thank you very much, everybody.